This episode is about positive conversations, a willingness to learn, be vulnerable, adapt, and an openness to getting uncomfortable for the sake of our planet. It's all about talking about and not waiting for the, air quotes, right time to talk about climate change. Hello, welcome to Earth Care Mini. I'm your host, Sarah Christie, and I'm on a mission to make climate change an approachable and not so overwhelming conversation for everyone. Now, normally, this is the podcast where we meet climate heroes, activists, experts, entrepreneurs, and get their take on how we can help save the planet. And that's still the case, but since we all need to be involved with climate action and the climate crisis is happening as we speak, I wanted to share some of the lessons that I've learned, I am unlearning, and I'm still learning with respect to this planet and the people on it. The lessons are big, but the episodes are mini. Think of them as 2-bite brownie-sized episodes for the planet. When's the last time you talked to your family about our climate crisis? Your friends? Your coworkers, the employee at the grocery store? Well, you're listening to this podcast, so there's a hot chance that you're similar to me and actually fight the urge to relate every conversation back to something climate change related. It's a nice day out. Well, actually, it's unseasonably warm, and here's why, and here's what that means for the elderly, our pets, and people with asthma. How I still get invited to parties, I have no idea. Not only do I think we're way past overdue in avoiding those conversations, I'm confident there's a way that we can all have them. A bit of a backstory if we've never met. I'm now a decade into working in the radio broadcast industry. I've been on air at every time of day you can think of, 3 a.m., 7 a.m., 10 p.m. I've moved 13 times in under 10 years and have taken on various roles within radio. All of those jobs have one thing in common, though. I was talking to people. Whether it was talking to you, the listener on air, my coworkers across Canada, media and music industry partners. We talk. There it is. There. Step one. You can probably relate this back to your job as well. If you enter a room of your coworkers, you know that you can talk about topic X and everyone will be able to join that conversation, right? I know that if I ask about the latest Justin Bieber song or Beyonce's new album, my coworkers are in and I can confidently contribute to that conversation. If someone derails the conversation, though, to ask about trigonometry, for instance, I'm out. I'd probably pretend I was getting a phone call and leave. That's not something I know anything about. Certainly, as an adult, I don't want to look like a dum-dum to you. So instead, I'm just going to tap out and avoid that conversation entirely. Whether or not we want to talk about climate change, it's happening and is in fact affecting us. Now, depending on where you live, you'll feel and see it differently, right? If you're like me and you live in a 4-seasons climate that at the moment doesn't really see major climate events, well, the summer was uncomfortably hot. Our gardens didn't do great. We could only walk our dogs in the morning, but hey, it's almost fall. We'll get through it. If you live in Pakistan, a country that emits just 1% of the global planet warming gases, what's happening to your home right now because of climate change is an absolutely devastating tragedy. Picture this. Every morning, you get organized to head out the door and go to work. One day, you start noticing that your neighbor's car is parked on the street and creeps a little bit into your driveway. That's different, but hey, you can carry on with your morning routine. Now, every day, the car creeps a bit further into your driveway path. Now when you pull out, you find yourself having to carefully weave around the car so you don't hit it. It's now changed your morning routine. Still not earth-shattering, still not sure if you need to talk to them about it because you want to avoid uncomfortable conversation. It's just easier to go about your day and ignore the problem. One day, the car is completely blocking your driveway and you can't get out. You're going to be late for work. You're going to miss the meeting that you stayed up late prepping for and your boss is going to be mad. In this situation, something is directly impacting your life. You probably want to know why, right? You're probably going to knock on your neighbor's door and say, hey, what's up? What gives? You're blocking my driveway. Why? Suddenly, you're fully invested. But if you talked about it earlier, acknowledged the change, got in front of it, perhaps you could have found a solution and not missed that big meeting. Now, I'm not saying every conversation we have about climate change is going to be the golden ticket to solving our climate crisis, but how are we going to help at all if we aren't even willing to talk about it? Back to radio. Like me, your social media is probably filled with people in similar fields, similar conversation topics. So my algorithm was every bit of pop culture news that you could think of. You want to know when Taylor Swift's birthday is? On it. You want to know what her cats' names are? No problem. But as I started learning and understanding more about our climate crisis, I was painfully eager to talk to people about it. and quickly noticed that that's not what we were talking about on my timeline or in so many of my direct circles. Now, there are a few options here. I can try and search for people in the environmental world online and message them and hope they're willing to hear my cries, but that seems like a lot of work, and if they don't get back to me, well, that's not gonna feel great. I can not talk about it at all, but I haven't spent time and money in therapy only to not talk about what gives me anxiety. Or I could just start talking about it. Now, obviously, that's intimidating because I'm not a trained climate scientist coming up with green solutions, and there's a chance I might not sound like I know what I'm talking about. What credibility do I have to engage in these conversations? That's the thing about climate change, though. It's happening to you. You have the right to talk about it. Step 2, I started wiggling climate change into all of my conversations. When I learned that black plastic couldn't be recycled, I told people whenever I found a cool way to upcycle something and divert it from a landfill, you probably heard it from me. I made videos on social media. I stopped shying away from bringing it up in conversation. And well, here we are. It slowly evolved into this podcast. Here's what I've learned though. People care and want to talk about it. You're listening to this episode, so I'm going to assume you already know this. So instead, I'll remind you that people around you care and they do want to talk about it. I'll give you some examples of the positive ripple effect of these conversations. Every year, my parents host a barbecue at the end of summer for our neighbors. They've been doing this for as long as I can remember. But you think about a barbecue, there's a lot of potential waste, right? Cutlery, food packaging, plates, cups. This year, my parents called me to ask if I could help them find ways to reduce waste at the barbecue. So they picked up compostable cutlery. We set up compost and recycling bins. We made sure everyone knew what items could go where. It was really nice. Was there still waste? Yeah. Did we stop an oil company from drilling? No. But through positive conversation, my parents were on board with changing up the norm. We did divert some waste that would have otherwise further polluted a landfill, and that could have ended up in a bird's stomach, a fish's stomach, and all of that should matter too. I've had coworkers excited to tell me that they now clean the coffee grounds out of their coffee pods and then they compost it. A friend messaged me recently to tell me that she cleans out her Ziploc baggies and reuses them, which, hey, if you are doing that, it also saves you money because you won't be buying new baggies. Win-win. I am forever. Team small actions matter too, because you truly never know what those actions might evolve into or who they might inspire. Selfishly, it helps alleviate some of the anxiety that comes with our climate crisis. It makes you feel like you're doing something, taking action. But it also tells the younger generation that we haven't given up on them. It tells people in Pakistan who are experiencing a life-changing flood that we care and we're fighting for them. Jack the Kid Conservationist, a previous guest on Earth Care, was 11 at the time that we chatted, already a published author, a climate educator, an orangutan and rainforest conservationist. He said it best. Jack said, education is the first step. If we don't know about an issue, how can we help it? Talking about climate change means so many different things, right? It could mean sharing an article that you read with a friend, asking your boss if you can get a compost system in the office. Next time you throw a party, suggesting that you ditch the red solo cups or, hey, maybe wash them after so they can be reused. If you're on social media, it could mean following a few accounts that have these conversations about what's going on and what positive and innovative solutions are available. So many of the countries that are experiencing the most devastating effects of climate change contribute the least to global warming. So for us in North America, it's time we start talking. Thank you so much for checking out Earth Care, letting this podcast be a part of your day. Don't forget to hit follow and subscribe, whatever that button is on the device that you're listening to this episode on, and then you'll know when new episodes are out. If you have time, leave a review. I would love to know what's on your mind, what's been clicking with you, and what topics we should cover next as I'm behind the scenes gathering the next round of interviews. Those reviews are a big help with that as well, so I do really appreciate that. We can also connect online at Earth Care Show on Instagram and TikTok, and earthcareshow.com for more information. This whole episode was about talking, so let's chat.